Hey nerds, it's time to lock in because today I'm making you experts in all things Supergirl.
Comics and powered by the Red 5 Network. For more, visit red5.io.link.
Hey nerds, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Danny, and today we are breaking down one of DC's most popular, if not most rebooted, female heroines, Supergirl. Now, before we go any further, a couple of things. First, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, ring that notification bell so you get notified whenever I'm back with even more of this nerdy nonsense, and maybe check out becoming a member of the channel. Also, if you're new and haven't seen one of these breakdowns before, I, Danny, break down a character or a story while doing my makeup at the same time. If you are curious or interested into any of the products I'm using in this video, just check the description down below. This video is also sponsored by Zinni Optical. So if you are in the market for a new pair of frames, prescription, non-prescription sunglasses, check out the link down in the description. I will save you a whopping 10% off your next pair of glasses. And of course, as always, for the full story, please read the comics. With no further ado, let's dive in. All right, nerds, there have been multiple versions of Supergirl since she came out in 1959. Because there are so many versions, and because the main version of her has been rebooted more times than I can keep track of, we are going to focus on Kara Zor-El. Now, before you can really understand the origin of Supergirl, her fictional character's biography, you really need to know why she was created in the first place. As we discovered in our video about the Comics Code Authority, the early 50s saw the comic book industry almost fizzle out completely. Sales had been seriously lackluster due to, honestly, a lack of interest. The kids at the time were starting to become far more interested in detective stories and science fiction, mostly science fiction. And then, of course, because of Dr. Friedrich Wertham, who penned and published the book Seduction of the Innocent, really scared a lot of parents out there. And if you're interested in that story, highly recommend our breakdown of the entire history of Seduction of the Innocent, the entire history of how the Comics Code Authority really came about and why it's not really an issue today. However, thanks to the reintroduction of the Flash as a forensic scientist, really marketing off the popularity of those detective and science comics, the Flash was rejuvenated by Gardner Fox and Carmine Infantino. And we're all going to pretend that my shirt doesn't have a teeny tiny hole right here because I didn't notice it until I got started. Well, thanks to The Flash, the Silver Age of comics was born. This also inspired many other beloved DC characters and titles to be rejuvenated as well. Now, DC, not wanting to miss an opportunity to capitalize off of this and not only expand the super family titles, but tap into the girl market as well, tested the waters in August of 1958 in Superman 123. Jimmy Olsen wishes a Supergirl into existence. She was sort of a one-off character, again, just to test the waters to see if something like that would sell. Needless to say, it did very well. So 9 months later, DC birthed its newest member of the super family. Surprise! It's a girl! Written by Otto Bender and designed by Al Plastino, Supergirl, as we have come to know her, made her first appearance in Action Comics number 252 in May of 1959. In this story, Kara comes to Earth years after the destruction of Krypton. And honestly, in retrospect, the story is actually pretty flimsy. But again, this was back when comics truly were written for children. So a lot of stories tended to be a little on the trite side. When Krypton exploded, Argo City broke free in one chunk, and luckily with an intact air bubble surrounding the city. Science, right? Because the planet, blew up, the ground of Argo City was irradiated and the soil turned to kryptonite. So a scientist by the name of Zor-El got the community together to build a lead shield all over the ground. They also had some very handy and convenient machinery, like basically food replicators and water processors. Now that the shielding was in place, the people that were getting sick from the kryptonite were starting to improve. All thanks to Zor-El, who eventually marries and has a child who is, you guessed it, Kara Zor-El. Now, many years later, around the time that Kara was about 14 years old, meteorites crashed through the air bubble surrounding Argo City and into the lead shielding cover the ground. Of course, this destroyed it, and people started getting very ill and dying. Knowing that there was nothing he could do to really save Argo City, he and his wife, Allura, devised a plan similar to Superman's parents, and they built a rocket to send their precious little girl off to safety. Now, how did they decide on planet Earth? Well, with a super telescope, of course. With this super telescope, while they were building the rocket, they discovered planet Earth and would watch the heroics of one Superman. Now, at the time, Allura, Kara, and Zor-El had no idea that Superman was actually Kal-El, Kara's cousin. They just thought this guy is super brave and super strong, and everyone seems to love him. So you know what? We're going to make you an outfit just like his. And that way, everyone will love you too. So that's what they did. They made her a costume that resembled Superman's, popped her in her rocket, and sent her on her way. When her rocket crashes to Earth, Superman discovers her. And it doesn't take long for them to realize that they are, in fact, related. They're cousins. Hooray! And what does Superman do with his recently discovered only relation left in the entire universe? Well, he slaps a brown wig on her, comes up with an alter ego with her, Linda Lee, and deposits her at the Midvale orphanage ran by Miss Hart. Bye-bye! Designed to appeal, obviously, to young female readers, Kara had several traits that set her apart from her cousin Superman. She was younger, more inexperienced, more flawed, short-tempered, impatient, and prone to making more mistakes. She was also a true immigrant. She struggled to adapt to Earth's culture in contrast to Superman, who was just a toddler when he arrived on Earth. She interacts with humans on a more personal basis, performing good deeds and saving the world one person at a time. She also devises clever schemes as Superman's secret weapon, saving him many times and avoiding adoption as much as possible until Superman can introduce her to the public. When Kandorian scientist Lisa Lar, scheming to take Supergirl's place, steals her powers away, Supergirl, aka Linda, allows herself to be adopted finally by engineer and rocket scientist Fred Danvers and his wife Edna. She eventually reveals her true identity to her adopted parents, and this all took place the same day that Superman introduces his cousin Supergirl to the entire world in what at the time was DC's longest running series, 8 chapters long, The World's Greatest Heroine. Later, Kara starts having dreams that her parents are still alive. The dreams turn out to be true. Taking direction from her father, Zor-El, and with the help of her engineer, rocket scientist, adopted father, Fred Danvers, she brings both her parents, Zor-El and Allura, to Earth from the survival zone where they had teleported during Argo City's final moments. Zor-El and Allura eventually end up living in Kandor, and when it's finally enlarged, because Brainiac shrunk it. They go on to New Krypton. After graduating from high school in 1965, Linda Danvers enrolls in Stanhope College, where she attends on a scholarship, graduating in 1971. During this time, Kara's pets are introduced. A cat named Streaky. I don't want to know. Like, why Streaky? Probably because it's really fast, but those aren't the kind of streaks I think of when I hear Streaky. So maybe I'm just immature. And a horse named Comet.
Which is actually way worse than her cat being named Streaky, because Comet actually became human once, a human man named Bill Starr, and Supergirl dated him. So yeah, Supergirl dated her horse.
She makes friends, one of them being Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. She meets her in 1967, actually, before she goes to college, and that happened in World's Finest. They become best friends and team up on multiple occasions, like in Super Family 171 or Adventure Comics number 381, when she officially left the Action Comic stories and made the leap to Adventure Comics. Around this time, she also joins the Legion of Superheroes from the future, becoming very close with Brainiac number 5. She dates him, a boy named Dick Mulverne, and Jero the Merboy from Atlantis. After a long time, Superman family editor Mort Weitzinger retired in 1971. Supergirl's character went under revitalization under editor Joe Orlando and artist Mike Sikowski, wearing a series of new costumes and leaving her adopted foster family, the Danvers. Linda goes to San Francisco, where she ends up working as a camera operator for KSF TV. These stories have some of Supergirl's most memorable villains. Lex Luthor's niece, Nestalthia, or Nasty. Nasty had made a couple of appearances during her college years. She ends up following Linda to San Francisco to try and get proof of her dual identity. Much like her uncle Lex, Nasty had an obsession. In her first eponymous monthly series, running from 1972 to October of 1974, when her monthly title merged with Superman's Girlfriend and Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen to produce a new series called Superman Family, where she eventually became the steady lead story. Linda worked as a student advisor at the New Athens Experimental School before leaving for New York to follow a career in acting on the daytime drama Secret Heart. In 1982, Supergirl got her second solo monthly series titled The Daring New Adventures of Supergirl. The character was relocated again to Chicago, and Carmine Infantino, industry legend, provided the penciling, inked by Bob Oxner. With issue number 13, the title was revamped, with Supergirl sporting a brand new, very Pat Benatar red headband. The title itself was shortened to just Supergirl. The series ran until its sudden cancellation in 1984, just 2 months before the character's big budget Hollywood debut on the big screen, with Helen Slater starring as Supergirl. Fun fact, the 1984 Supergirl movie starring Miss Helen Slater was the first live-action film I saw in theaters. In 1985, many heroes from across the DC multiverse joined forces to defeat the Anti-Monitor in Crisis on Infinite Earths. DC's stories had become convoluted and hard to follow, so they created a crisis event to clean up those convoluted storylines and make life a little easier on readers and DC creators alike. This event, this method, would become a common tool for DC to use to clean up storylines. So anytime you see a DC title with the word crisis in it, you can expect some spring cleaning. When Superman comes face to face with the Anti-Monitor, he is knocked unconscious and about to be killed. But just in the nick of time, Supergirl rushes in to save him. She's able to fight off the Anti-Monitor, giving Dr. Light enough time to take Superman to safety. But Supergirl ends up sacrificing herself and is killed by the Anti-Monitor. Afterward, Supergirl is buried on New Krypton, but they have a huge memorial for her in Chicago. When the Monitor, the antithesis of the Anti-Monitor, obviously, when he reboots the universe, the timeline is altered and all memory of Kara Zor-El is erased. Though she was erased from the DC continuity, she had a habit of randomly popping up from time to time, like as a spirit trying to reassure Boston Brand, aka Dead Man, or as kind of an imaginary friend for Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. After 1985, the stance of DC Comics was that Superman alone was Krypton's sole survivor. There was no one else. Officially, Kara Zor-El never existed, and neither could she ever be mentioned. They went so far that in Secret Origins Volume 2, issue number 42, her name was actually censored in the letter column. At the same time, although Power Girl was spared, she obviously couldn't be an Earth 2 version of Kara Zor-El anymore. So her backstory was also changed to being the granddaughter of an Atlantean sorcerer called Arian. 1 year later, she starred in a 4-issue series which explored her new origin. For the next 16 years, any version of Supergirl, any character having the name Supergirl, was not Kara Zor-El, not Superman's cousin. In 1988, Supergirl returned crashing to Earth in Antarctica, unconscious. Yet, recognizable, she had blonde hair and blue eyes and her classic costume. In this incarnation, her alter ego was Linda Danvers. This Supergirl was a shape-shifting protoplasmic creation of a Lex Luthor from a pocket universe. She would later go on to be known as Matrix. In 2000, the then current Supergirl book featuring Linda Danvers, Matrix, was in danger of being canceled. This inspired Peter David's very popular book, Many Happy Returns. He knew readers were getting bored with shapeshifter Linda Danvers. And also, many readers, after 12 years, still only would accept Kara Zor-El as Supergirl. So, with a need to make some money and sell some books, Peter David came up with this story. Kara returns, but as Linda Danvers' guardian angel. Young Kara appears as a younger version of herself way before the crisis event. A paradox is created and a moral dilemma for Linda. She tries to take Kara's place as the crisis sacrifice. She ends up living in the Silver Age universe for years where no one swears, the villains are easily defeated, and it's so clean. Linda eventually marries the Silver Age Superman. Remember, this Linda Danvers is a protoplasmic shapeshifter, not Superman's cousin, so it's totally ethically and legally fine. So not only does she marry the Superman, but they have a daughter too, right before she is forced to return to her universe by the Spectre, who explains to her that no matter what she does, she will never replace Kara Zor-El as the crisis sacrifice. Linda's inability to save Kara, coupled with the loss of her husband and child, is so devastating to her that it ends her career as Supergirl. Linda leaves a note for Superman explaining that she has failed to live up to the standards required to carry the Supergirl name and legacy. She also told him that she chose to go somewhere else, somewhere where she could never be found. This is considered one of the greatest Supergirl story arcs ever to be written. Dan Didio wanted to simplify Supergirl, and that was by her being Superman's cousin. So in 2004, Jeff Loeb reintroduced Supergirl in the post-Zero Hour continuity. During this storyline in the Superman-Batman title, she is the biological cousin of Superman. And although chronologically older than him, the ship in which she traveled to Earth actually got trapped in a chunk of green kryptonite. This held her in a state of suspended animation for much of her journey, which gave her the physiology of a 16-year-old Kryptonian girl. Supergirl would have trouble sometimes seeing Superman or Kal-El as a child, someone younger than her, because, I mean, the last time she saw him, she was holding him as a little baby, so that had to be a bit of a mind for her. I am literally covered in gold glitter. It's 2003 all over again. When DC Comics relaunched Supergirl, the first arc written by Jeff Loeb, it showcased Supergirl on this journey of self-discovery. She encounters her Earth 2 counterpart, Power Girl, the Teen Titans, the Outsiders, the Justice League of America, and of course, Lex Luthor. During the Infinite Crisis story, which is the sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, she is transported to the 31st century, where she's revered as a member of the Superman family. And she ends up joining the Legion of Superheroes. Again, in this continuity. As a result of her disorientation from the time travel, which I'm sure that jet lag is a bitch. She believes for some time that she's dreaming all of this, that she's making this all up, that it couldn't possibly be real, until she's, eventually finally convinced that she's actually in the future, in the 31st century. One of the results of the Infinite Crisis story is that Wonder Girl, Donna Troya, actually inherits Harbinger's orb after her rebirth and is able to recall the original Kara and her sacrifice. So she remembers everything. During the course of the 52, Kara returns from the 31st century to the 21st century with her memories of her time in the 31st century completely erased, until she runs into the pre-crisis versions of the Karate Kid and Triplicate Girl. It completely breaks down the mental barriers that had been put up there in the future, and then she remembers everything. But she's still able to fill in for a temporarily depowered Superman as the guardian of Metropolis. She fights in Kandor as Flamebird, with Power Girl as Nightwing. In 2007, she actually joins the Teen Titans. And after talking to some friends and other heroes, she decides to take on the alter ego, Linda Lang, posing as Lana Lang's cousin. Around 2008-2009, she's reunited with her parents, Zor-El and Allura, when Superman discovers and frees the bottled city of Kandor. After her father is killed, the Kandorians found New Krypton on another planet. Kara becomes torn between her responsibilities and friends on Earth and obligations to her mother and her people. Ultimately, she chooses to join New Krypton and the New Krypton Science Guild. Supergirl also exhibits new powers, manifesting sunstone crystals from her body. Yeah. But this happens when she's under extreme stress, like when Cassandra Cain tried to unalive her. Her father, Zor-El, had implanted the crystals within her body to protect her from the Phantom Zone dwellers. When they were, released by her uncle Jor-El, when he was trying to create the Phantom Zone projector and basically using it as a prison. Zor-El, believing that his nephew Kal-El could lure the denizens of the Phantom Zone, he tells Kara to destroy him, her own cousin. Zor-El was not thinking very well at all. It's been suggested in more recent stories that was to counteract green kryptonite poisoning she sustained from her rocket ship being trapped in that chunk of kryptonite. In September of 2011, DC Comics started a new continuity known as the New 52, one of the most, if not the most, unpopular continuity in the history of DC Comics. This continuity reboot, which it canceled all of its monthly titles and then relaunched 52 new ones. One of them was a new Supergirl series that featured, you guessed it, yet another new origin story. That story in its entirety was published between 2011 and 2015. Artist Mahmoud Esrar designed a new costume for her that more closely resembled Superman's costume as opposed to her kind of cheerleader costume we were used to seeing her in. However, it was wildly unpopular, as most things in the New 52 are. In the New 52 origin, which of course has been retconned, Kara has no memory of Krypton or its destruction, and she believes it's only been 3 days since she left. Once she learns the truth from her cousin Superman, she travels through a wormhole to go find Argo City in the orbit of a blue sun. When she gets there, the city is in complete ruins, and there is no explanation as to what happened or why. Then she's attacked by a world killer named Rain, right before the city just kind of sails into the sun. She finds out that Rain and the other world killers want to go to Earth and enslave it. So Supergirl goes back to protect Earth, which she then adopts as her new home. It takes some time, but after a lot of battles, she eventually accepts that Krypton is gone and it is not coming back. Earth is what she has now. But she ends up falling in love with another Kryptonian who manipulates her through her desire, her grief over Krypton. He convinces her that we can bring it back. We can bring back the Kryptonian race. Well, the result of this is Supergirl almost obliterating Earth. She almost destroys her new home. When she realizes that he has abused and manipulated her, she kills him by stabbing him through the chest with a shard of green kryptonite, which of course gives her kryptonite poisoning. So she leaves Earth to die alone, but while adrift in interstellar space, she encounters a planet under attack by monsters. So of course she quickly intervenes to save them, completely unaware that this was all a trap orchestrated by none other than Brainiac. She's captured, held captive by a cyborg Superman. After she manages to escape, she returns to Earth. She gets sent to the past by Oracle with Superman and Superboy, where she ensures that a resurrected Hell cannot save Krypton. So she sacrifices the one thing she desperately wants, her home, in order to save the entire universe. And back on Earth, she encounters Lobo. At first, she's eager for a peaceful resolution because she sees them as kindred spirits. They're both lone survivors of their entire race, but isn't quite fully aware of Lobo's story. She's very naive to it. Due to her trauma, which gets revealed by a Guardian, she's basically recruited by a Red Lantern ring and becomes a rage monster Red Lantern. Like, it drives her crazy, legitimately crazy. She wanders space attacking anyone who gets in her way until she is captured by several Green Lanterns and brought to Hal Jordan, who immediately recognizes, oh, this chick is Kryptonian. Okay. So Hal takes her to the leader of one of the Red Lantern factions, Guy Gardner, who restores her sanity and trains her. After her time with the Red Lantern Corps, she is discharged and heads back to Earth. However, she comes across the leader of the World Killers. Of course, like, this Supergirl continuity is just trauma after trauma after trauma. Like, this girl is never okay. So it's revealed that the armor that the World Killers wear is just like parasites, okay? Well, it tries to assimilate Kara as its new host, but to save herself and everyone else, she subjects herself yet again to kryptonite poisoning and then flies into the sun, killing the World Killer symbiote. Kara is revealed to be immortal as she is healed in the core of the sun and eventually goes back to Guy Gardner and helps him defeat Atrocitus, the leader of the other faction of the Red Lanterns. In the Rebirth incarnation of Supergirl, she is known as Kara Danvers, adopted daughter of DEO agents Jeremiah and Eliza Danvers. She's 16, attends high school in National City, and helps out with the agency, the DEO agency, that is. And she gets special glasses that hide her identity by darkening her hair. Now, if only Kara had known about Zenny.com, she could have chosen from over 2,500 different frames, and she wouldn't have needed techno magic glasses to hide her identity, at least not from AI. All she had to do was get the Zenny optical IQ lens with Zenny ID Guard. These lenses actually filter infrared light, protecting your digital and online safety from unwanted facial scans. They also protect your eyes from so many different levels of the sun's light spectrum, like UVA and UVB, and blue light filtering. So if Supergirl is working at the agency on the computer all day, she's not going to get a migraine from all that blue light. And to get your own pair of Zenny frames with IQ lens and Zenny ID Guard, use my link below. It'll save you 10% and save your eyeballs. Yeah. Supergirl later accepts an internship at Cat Grant's Catco, where she works until she's infected by the Batman Who Laughs toxin, becoming the Supergirl Who Laughs. She turns evil and joins other infected as the Secret Six before later being cured. But unfortunately, she gets fired from Catco. Luckily for her, she immediately starts working at Star Labs, which leads us to the inspiration for the DCU's Supergirl film and her latest origin in this continuity. I'm speaking, of course, of the book Woman of Tomorrow, which I really enjoy. I know it's a bit of an acquired taste for some, but for me, I absolutely love it. Feeling lost and without purpose, struggling to deal with the grief and loss of her parents and people, Supergirl is basically traveling around a red sun galaxy, getting hammered, celebrating her 21st birthday. Because, of course, she can't get drunk under a yellow sun. So she had to find a solar system with a red sun. The most important part to me of Woman of Tomorrow is it is revealed that Kara was 14 years old when Krypton was destroyed. Now, like in the Silver Age origin, Argo City breaks off in one big chunk from the planet when it explodes, and the people live there another 2 years. Like the Silver Age origin, she is packed in a rocket and sent off to Earth. This torments her. I mean, I've dealt with loss, but can you imagine an entire planet, your parents, and virtually every member of your race gone? Just you and your cousin. That's all that's left. So while she's basically on this pub crawl with just her dog Crypto, a young girl by the name of Ruthie comes up to her and propositions her to kill a man by the name of Krem of the Yellow Hills, who had murdered Ruthie's father. She offers as payment for this big sword. Supergirl, of course, says no, emphatically no. We don't kill. That's our code. We don't do that. But of course, Krem of the Yellow Hills shows up and seriously, severely injures both Supergirl and Crypto. So after they get Supergirl and Crypto some help, Kara says, all right, let's go find this Krem of the Yellow Hills. Throughout this journey, Supergirl and Ruthie travel to several different planets, having to take the long way back since Supergirl's rocket ship took off without her. So for much of the book, she is depowered because she's stuck in this red sun. She does take a red kryptonite drug, which makes her trip balls and gives her flame flame wings. That's really cool. But it's not until she gets back under a yellow sun that she gains her powers back. This story features Kara, Crypto, her horse Comet comes back. So it's very, very much a blend of the Silver Age origin and the modern age origin. Supergirl has shown up in live action just a couple of times. Of course, in 1984, portrayed by Helen Slater, but it wasn't really the real Supergirl. It was some weird magic wand story. Then, of course, you had Smallville. Kara was then played by Laura Vandervoort, one of my favorite live action portrayals as Supergirl. Of course, Helen Slater showed up in Smallville playing Cal's mom. And of course, the series Supergirl, which originally was on ABC and then made the move to CW with Melissa Benoist as the titular character. And now, of course, we have Millie Alcott, who made her debut as Supergirl in Superman in July of 2025. Her movie, Supergirl, due to come out in 2026. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm really confused by James Gunn's statements. Like, he's adapting Woman of Tomorrow, and yet he said in Rolling Stone magazine that Kara doesn't even remember Krypton. How could she? She was just a baby. But the whole point of Woman of Tomorrow is Kara dealing with her sense of grief and loss in order to help someone else through their grief and loss. Either way, you are now officially prepared for when Supergirl hits theaters. You're officially an expert on all things Supergirl. If you like the content I'm putting out there, please do me a huge solid and smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you get notified whenever I'm back with even more of this nerdy nonsense. Also, consider joining the channel as a member and take advantage of all our perks, including early access to these breakdowns when they drop. Till then, nerds, I've been Danny. You've been awesome, and I will see you in the next one. Keep your eyes peeled, okay? Because
Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are gonna get you!